Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Disrespected, Overworked and Underpaid Female Employee Gets the Last Laugh. I have always been a hard worker thanks to my parents' work ethic and raising 3 kids on a shoestring budget. My dad took every bit of overtime he could get, missing holidays and never using vacation or sick time so my mum could stay home with us kids and have a hot meal on the table every night. When we were school-aged, my mum went back to school and got a job where she could be home when we got off the bus, and shuttle us to every sport and activity we wanted to participate in. To this day, I still have no idea how they afforded it all. So it was natural for me, the oldest of 3, to apply for jobs as soon as I turned 15, landing a retail position where I worked every hour allowed by my work permit. I saved up enough to buy a used car before I was even old enough to drive, and once I got my driver's license I worked 2 or 3 jobs at a time to save for college. I got a summer internship at my dad's company that led to me working my way up through the industry toward an engineering position, which I was already studying in college. At the beginning of my last year in college, I had already accepted a job offer with a company called Jerks Incorporation for a full-time engineering job after I graduated. As a salaried Jerks Incorporation employee I was not paid overtime, but still worked a minimum of 60 hours a week, and often 80 to 100 hours a week when I worked at remote job sites all over the US, which was about 80% of the time. These jobs had me busting outside all day in the scorching summers of the southern US to the frigid winters of the northern states. My manager at the time strictly enforced the policy of only 1 paid comp day after any given trip, even if I'd worked 2 consecutive 100-plus hour weeks. He never traveled and left work each day the minute he clocked 8 hours. Other managers called me copy girl because they only briefly saw me in the office making copies of manuals and drawings before I raced back out to another demanding job site. One day I was called into my manager's office and reprimanded for frequently using the company phone, designated for business use only, in the middle of the night. I pointed out every one of those calls on the phone bill were from our customers needing emergency technical support. He had no idea my job required 24/7 on-call response. After 5 years, I had a small team under me who put in the same grueling hours and enjoyed the same $500 bonus each year. I was repeatedly denied requests to give them raises or paid overtime, and when I back-calculated my effective hourly wage over the last 5 years, it was less than I was making at my first job at 15. I subsequently gave my notice. In my exit interview, the bigwigs were very upset and worried that I would take their clients with me, so they tried to make me sign a non-compete agreement on my way out the door. I laughed to myself and politely declined, yet I still took a consulting position in a completely different industry. After a couple months, former clients started calling asking me to work on some big projects. When I told them they would need to call Jerks Incorporation, they said they already had and my entire team had quit shortly after I did, leaving no one there capable of doing the work they needed. I decided to start a side business intending to work a couple weeks per quarter, but when word got out I was back in the industry, it quickly became more than a full-time gig. My old team had also refused to sign a non-compete when they quit, and they all ended up coming to work for me. The bigwigs at Jerks Incorporation threatened to sue me for poaching clients and ex-employees despite not having a leg to stand on, and eventually had to contract my company for some of their upcoming projects requiring the services they could no longer provide in-house. When my team and I walked into Jerks Inc.'s conference room for the first project meeting, the managers stared down at the table. I couldn't hide my huge smile as I handed out our rate sheet, which was around 10 times more than they had paid us as employees. The next one is titled, Madwoman Blocks a Bus That She Thinks Cut Her Up, But She Didn't Think It Through. I'm from London and take buses and trains nearly everywhere. I had some driving lessons when I turned 17, but I never passed, my heart wasn't in it, so while I can drive, I am not a licensed driver. This particular bus I'm on heading west is headed for Heathrow and is a very long single-decker. There's a point on the route where a brick wall flanks a very tight curve, the bus needs to edge through there and nearly everyone knows the spot is tricky and gives some space to the many bus routes that come through here. This airport shuttle is so long it need to be extra careful and I always commend the drivers who make it look effortless. About 4 or 5 miles later I've alighted at my stop and am a few steps away when I hear commotion. A woman has pulled up on the driver's side of the bus, at a 45-degree angle to block the bus. Remember, we drive on the left here, he needs to pull out to the right. Total grader dick move. She is screaming at the driver that he cut her up back at the dodgy walled corner. She's demanding his driver ID and plate, which she could take herself because it's there for anyone to see. The driver didn't cut her up, she likely just didn't have patience and got upset while he took the corner. He's rightfully refusing to give her the time of day and quite politely insists she stop blocking the bus. There's about 30 people on board with places to go. Some passengers are telling her she's being outrageous as well. I have ceased walking and remain because I'm not afraid of pushy, selfish people. She didn't even shut her driver's side door or take her keys with her, so I get in and drive ahead a bit. It's now parked at the end of the bus stop, so it's not blocking the bus nor any traffic. I get out and see the bus driver shout, "Cheers mate," and he all but flattens her as he swiftly takes off to continue his route. Now that she can't berate him, she tries to get in my face, but I'm much taller than her anyway and put headphones on and continue walking. Better still, my walk takes me onto a road which you can't enter by car from her way. It's one-way slip onto her road, so she couldn't follow me even if she had the balls she wants everyone to think she's got. If she was clever she'd have taken his plate herself, but she missed her chance and will now never be able to report her grievance to the bus company. The next one is titled, Wrong Number. Many years ago I started a job, and in my department was a young lady who was just a loud-mouthed, rude, crude, bad-tempered and nasty witch. She was just a witch. I am sure some of you have come across one of these people in your life. Anyway, back then, there was no caller ID on the phones like today. I decided one day, after hearing her yell again at someone, to pick up the phone and call her. She sat on the other side of the office, but I could hear her and see her pick up the phone. When she picked up the phone, I quietly just hung up. I would turn down the volume on my speakerphone and have the mute button on while I dialed. When I would hang up, it was just a matter of me silently clicking it off. When this would happen, I could hear her yell, "Damn it," over and over again. Damn it. I would do this like 3 or 4 times a day. Sometimes I would get up and go to the fax machine and dial her from there to deflect any suspicion. Dammit. I would hear. I would suffer in silence as I tried and succeeded in suppressing my laughter. One day I saw the only friend I had in the office get into a fight with her. "I just hate that witch," he told me. I decided to let him in my mini world of revenge. He started to do it as well. She would scream, "Damn it. Who's doing that?" and look around the room. My buddy and I just kept working, and she couldn't figure out who her wrong number phone stalker in the room was. He would do the fax trick as well. When I finally quit my job, I would call her like once a week and prank her 3 or 4 times in a row. My friend would call me and say, "Dude, was that you? She's so upset. She's going crazy," and proceeded to tell me that she was screaming all over the place like a crazy woman and that management had been called on her various times. Of course we would laugh about it. A couple of years later I get called into an office meeting and a supervisor asked me if I know a person from my previous job who was applying for a job at my current company. It was her, and she was in the other room. I go to meet her and there she was, a broken woman. She was somehow different. I told her if she wants a job here she cannot do the same crap she pulled off in the other place, and if she ever does I have the power to fire her. She proceeds to tell me that she had realized that she had been overbearing and that she had a real talk down by her former boss and that she had learned to control her anger. So believe it or not, I gave the go-ahead and gave her the job. And yes, she did change. The people loved her at the new job and she was a productive and good employee. The next one is titled, Berate Me in Front of Customers? How about you lose all your northern franchises, fella? Between teaching jobs I also worked as a personal trainer. I took a year out between teaching to work for a well-known gym chain, let's call them Fitness Foremost, for more experience as a manager rather than floor staff. This meant training new personal trainers, helping them manage their businesses, collecting rent and also putting on membership activities, stuff that would get the members involved with the club. Socialize with a view that members who were actively engaged with the club would retain their memberships for longer. All was good for the first 6 months. The district manager (DM) that hired me was a great guy who was far too intelligent for his role. No one knew I had been, was a teacher, had a background in business development, and we got on very well. He left however to go back into design, his first love, and he was replaced with what could only be called a car salesman of a manager. Apologies to any car salesman out there. You know the kind, a 48 laws of power type of guy, constantly in his office, always on his phone even if no one was actually on the phone, harassing the female PTs, smiling his ducking shark teeth smile all the time and constantly positioning himself in positions of power or influence. Press release about a new gym opening, you better believe his face was there. Personal trainer winning an award? Guess whose grubby little fingers were also clinging to that tiny piece of perspex? Other than the PTs. I had 2 members of staff that were directly employed to be floor staff, keeping the gym clean, reporting any machines broken and carrying out inductions etc. DM made them redundant, without telling me, while I was on holiday. Came back to a gym with no staff. He then terminated the cleaning company contract, again without telling me, to save costs. Other gyms under his influence still had their cleaning companies come in at the end of the day and make sure everything was spick and span. I asked why ours had been cut, was told that because we were in a suburban area, where actually often a road lined with shops and by a major tram stop, we didn't need them. Well, I asked, who would do the cleaning? Guess who? So from a position of influence where I managed a small team and consulted with PTs on best practice, I was now effectively charged with cleaning the gym full time. Luckily, and I had been approached by a local council to work for them in a number of schools and a prison, and I jumped at the chance, now disillusioned with the fitness industry. I gave my 3-month notice with the intention of working out the rest of the summer holidays to earn a bit of cash rather than sit at home all day playing PlayStation and abusing myself. In the meantime, because I'm too busy trying to keep an entire gym clean, I'm unable to help the PTs build their empires, so they were struggling. I also didn't have time to put on any more membership engagement events, which I had paid for out of my own pocket because reasons, and something I will never do again for any organization. Also, I can't really work 15-hour days without a day off and no staff other than a receptionist that won't leave reception 9, and to be honest, why should she? All well and good, but then a month and a half in DM brings in his London-based counterpart. However smarmy and irritating DM was, the London dude was 3 times that. I get pulled into my office, which was turned into storage room, and loudly berated with the door open for the shocking state of the gym. I had no idea what he was on about. Gym was clean. He then makes me do a walk around and proceeds to drag his finger over the tops of some machines to show me there was dust. It could only have been made more perfect if he wore a white glove. The rest of the gym members watched this as he moved from machine to machine looking for any modicum of dust. At one point he literally jumped to the top of a cable frame to show me how dirty it was. Unless some of our 8-foot members were stooping down to lick the top of the machine frames, it wasn't a problem. I explained that I could not clean every single square cm of machinery without any other staff. Back to the office, and my bad attitude was berated, the fact I had stopped putting on membership engagement events etc. And I should go home and think about my future. I realized then that both of them had no idea, forgotten that I had given my notice. Oh happy day. I stifled a smile, and was asked what I thought was so funny. Here's the thing, the amount of ducks you give is proportional to the years you expect to stay in a company. As I had approximately 5 weeks left before starting a much better, higher paying job, I found myself bereft of ducks. I solemnly agreed that I would think about ways to improve my work performance and my future in the company. They left, having successfully chided my sorry butt. I waited about 12 minutes after they left the building, grabbed a red permanent marker and wrote "I quit" on one of the A3 posters being stored in my old office. Got my coat, hugged the receptionist and drove home. PlayStation on, phone off. The revenge, well, you can't really run a gym with just a receptionist. I was told that the DM actually had to roll up his expensive sleeves and get scrubbing, which was great, but hey, this is pro-revenge, not petty. Let's get to the juicy stuff. Here's what happened if you quit your membership at a Fitness Foremost in the Northwest under DM's reign. You have to give your notice in writing. Of all the people that quit, a third had payments continue to be taken from their accounts. From that third, approximately a third would still not check their bank accounts, although the other 2/3 would complain and be refunded, and so on and so on. There were people a year gone from the gym still paying their membership fees. All kept in a special file in DM's pigeonhole. Fitness Foremost also had a forum specifically dedicated to them built by their upset members called Duck Fitness Foremost, and a Facebook group, all run by ex-members who all got a bit of insider knowledge on this practice of ignoring a third of all cancellations. Check your bank statements, people. Local papers get a sniff and start asking questions. Huge up in arms. DM's boss swoops in and removes him shortly afterwards. Gym memberships are now so low that the gym itself is sold to a competitor. Knock-on effect is that they lose all of their Northwest sites. As far as I'm aware, they only exist south of Brum now. I'd like to think the collapse of their northern franchise is down to me, but I think it's more down to just simply mismanagement and not caring about the customer. I also like to think he's been chained to a bike with no seat and forced to cycle up and down the UK, but well. The last one is titled, Treating Your Waiters Like Shit? Here, have 50+ complaints in one day. I live permanently with my parents on a holiday island, country. I decided I want to get out of town, so a month ago I picked up a seasonal job with accommodation at a hotel in a tiny village in the middle of nowhere. When I went to the interview, I already knew something was wrong. The boss and the female manager were so professional, and phrases like, "I treat my workers like my children. This is a very bad year for me for the staff," were thrown around. My mother was pretty impressed with their honesty. What thrown me off was when he said, "The 2 waitresses I had here found boyfriends and ran away with them." This was illogical. Why would 2 girls who came from Lithuania to make money for the summer randomly drop the job for boys? Well, I needed money, so I took the job, thinking that maybe I'm just sensitive from my previous jobs. A month later I have the following. He fired one of the waiters 2 weeks ago. Now we have 350+ guests all inclusive, 3 waiters and 1 bartender. On some days you have 1 waiter serving lunch for all these people. Today there will be 2 waiters serving a 3-course dinner because the bartender has his day off. At the interview I was told I'm sharing tips only with the waiters and the kitchen. I make hell lots of tips because I'm the only member of staff who speaks English and Russian fluently. Most people here don't. Nobody speaks Russian, and 1/2 of our guests are Russian, rest is British. Last week when I was talking to the bartender, he complained, "Why should I share my tips with the manager, reception, and the gardeners?" I guess you can imagine the face I made when I heard I'm sharing my massive tips because Russians leave €8 tips for a sandwich with 2 guys who don't even speak English. The bosses don't even use please or thank you anymore. Everything is said in army tone. The manager is a witch. She's been working here for 6 years. She's Romanian, and she brings all her friends here to work. So they have their little Romanian clique, spend all their time together. Me and my roommate, who's a dishwasher in the kitchen, are the only ones who are not Romanian. The manager casually hangs out in our living quarters like it's nothing. She's the best friend of our bartenders, who is the only normal person here, wife, who is a witch. The woman is in her late 20s, early 30s and behaves like a 15-year-old girl. She has fat rolls, like all the staff here except for me and my roommate. We're both athletic, and constantly has a problem with me and my roomie, surprise. The other woman thinks I'm trying to hit on her husband. He's a married man. I have morals, as does he. The manager openly talks about me in the kitchen. My roommate can hear her and understand her. Her English isn't great spoken, but she understands very well. I made friends with some other waiters from other bars around the village. Quite a few of them worked here before. When I asked them why they left, the answer is always the same. They were treated like crap, and the manager is a witch. I asked my roommate, as she's Lithuanian and the waitresses that left lived with her in the room and were also Lithuanian, why did the girls leave? Turns out that our manager drove them out of here because she was jealous and constantly found something for them. So when they found themselves a job in a town close by, yes, thanks to boyfriends they met here, but nonetheless, of course they left. When I arrived here, on the same day came a waiter with his fiancée as a cleaner from Romania. They too are complaining to me about how shitty she treats them and how they got tricked into the job. We decided we are not taking any more crap. For a week now, we've been doing the following. The dinners and lunches open up late because we decided that we don't stay even a minute longer than the shift ends. So if I haven't finished polishing the cutlery, I drop it all anyway and leave it for the other waiters. They do the same. We don't get paid enough, €550, to do everything speedy and on heavy physical labor, and the two boys were lied to just like me before they came here all the way from Romania. So we agreed that now we're doing everything at normal pace. For the past 3 days the lunch started 2 hours later than normal, because only one waiter was on duty and he didn't manage to prepare for lunch on time, as you have to serve at the bar as well at the same time, since the bartender doesn't get there until 12 o'clock, when the lunch starts. Of course the customers were furious. Do we give a crap? No. On the first afternoon a whole crowd of about 20 people went to the, as always, empty, our manager is too busy doing her nails in the office, reception very upset. We do everything we can not to get tips. All of us stopped caring, because we all just want to go home at this point, and money doesn't even matter anymore. Last night the tip box was full, so they went to share it out. The gardener comes running to me, I was off shift, having a drink at the bar, yes, we're allowed since there is nowhere to go in this village, and asks me, that's all? I said to him, if he doesn't make the tips he shouldn't really complain, and if he has a problem to go to the boss. Ratings on TripAdvisor have been crap for the past 2 weeks, and the negatives outweighs the positive ones. The customers all say that the waiters are rude and seem unwelcoming. A sudden drop from all the love from previous months. We all have shitty attitudes towards our superiors. They can't do anything about it, because if they fire one more waiter, they will not be able to serve at all. I abuse the fact that I can leave tomorrow by doing whatever the hell I want. The other 2 waiters can't do that because they have to get tickets, etc. But all I need to do is get in my car and go back home 3 hours away, leaving them with 2 waiters. I won't do that because I need a little cash quickly, and I like my coworkers too much to duck them up. Also, I'm not a lowlife like my bosses to duck people in the butt. Last night the boss gathered us, the waiters, at the back of the kitchen and started to shout at us about what the hell we're doing, etc. I said we don't get paid enough, and that we want the salary he'd pay the waiter he fired shared between us, because we're all doing 2 persons' work amount. Of course he had a million answers and would cut us all half-sentence, so we just walked off, ignoring him. We worked very slowly, we mixed up the orders on purpose, we made duplicate orders all the time, we screwed with the drinks, were very unpleasant to the customers. When I finished my shift I went to get changed. By the time I was walking to return to the bar the dinner was finished already. I got to the reception area just to see a bunch of way over 50 people being very upset and our manager attempting to tame them all. I got to the bar and saw the 2 waiters and the bartender trying not to laugh when I looked at them with a "what the hell is going on there" face. We will continue to do this, because it's very effective. We're not tired anymore, and because we don't give a duck at all anymore, it's totally okay. Before you say we're ruining people's holidays, we don't give a duck. A lot of them have been rude to us before we've started this, and also this hotel is super cheap. It's a 4-star hotel where you can get a week of all-inclusive, with the room, for €200 per person. That's a ducking crazy price. So yeah, I guess you can't complain, no irony, pun intended. Thanks for listening.